Welcome to the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. On this channel, we're going to be discussing all things moving to the land and becoming integrated with a family farming operation. Whether you're moving to the farm for the first time or whether you're moving back into a family farming operation, we discuss the ins and the outs of all of it. So let's jump into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. Today is episode 112, and it's going to be a solo episode with just me and you here in the studio. So glad that you've all been able to make it. We are halfway through the year. We are already in July. How amazing is that? This year has gone so fast. Been tracking the days, filling so much in, juggling so many balls, which is why the interviews for the Ultimate Farm Wife are currently on hold. And I'm going to be talking about all those balls that I'm juggling here in this episode as we go along. So stay tuned from that. This episode will be a life update, an Ultimate Farm Wife update, a absolutely fabulous and HarvestHer power update, as well as, the farm. So going into some of the new and exciting opportunities we've got here on farm and what's coming up. So stay tuned for all of that. Before we jump right into it, I do want to say thank you so much to everyone who has reached out recently with your messages, whether it be online or in person or at an event. It is so lovely to be meeting you guys, connecting with you on and off the internet. Podcasting can be quite lonely. It's just me in my office talking to you or on an interview with one of you one-on-one. And it's so lovely to be receiving the feedback from all of you and your questions and what you want to hear more of. Have absolutely loved that. Every single one of those little connections and little moments and glimmers that I talk about really fill my cup. So thank you so much. So for me, show season has nearly wrapped up. It has composed of many bull shows, many country shows, and some judging. So my husband and I both judge. He does mostly the cattle. I do jams. In the past, I've done young women's competition and things like that, as well as juggling all the kids and taking them along to those days. So it will be great that the show circuit will slightly start to slow down, but as we know on farm, the farm never really slows down itself. So we will also be ramping up into bull sale season. So we've already had the Shorthorn National, which we sold all 4 bulls that we took to the national show there. Great outcome for everybody. The judging and preserves have been going really well. So I reckon each and every year, the number of entries ebbs and flows, but the quality never lacks. So congratulations to everyone. The most recent show that I did was the Wellington show. Absolutely incredible, especially definitely the jams leveled up this year. And my favorite category is always the lemon curd. So amazing stuff there, guys. One thing, I know we don't always want to talk about the weather. We want to deep dive. We want to get into bigger conversation here. But I don't think it can go without saying that it has been such a delight to get rain across Central West New South Wales. For many of you guys in the Ultimate Farm Life community here in New South Wales, we were really feeling restricted from how the season is going. A lot of us have been drought feeding for 6 months, some definitely feeding the last 3, and feeling that maybe there was some work that we didn't do coming out of the last drought back in 2019 that was starting to have some PTSD effects and some stress effects on the farm system. So I hope with this sort of rain, we're taking the time to be able to reflect and think back on those pressures now that they're coming off, and now's the time to be working on those. Reach out to someone for help, whether it's a financial counsellor, a counsellor, any of the mental health programs that are currently running. Check in with family and friends. Even if you're feeling okay, there's probably somebody else in your circle or your family who's not. Check in with them, come up with a strategy and start working on that. my good friend Katie O'Brien runs a wonderful, wonderful page, which is Open the Gates, Check Your Mates. So if you're not following her on socials, I do recommend you go across and jump on that. She does a check-in Tuesday reminder, and it is so nice to have that just pop up in your feed, not only to check in with what they're up to and what's going on, but also a nice little reminder to reach out to your friends and family, even if you're sending them a message saying, thinking of you, just checking in, or you actually pick up the phone and have that conversation with them. It is amazing how much a 10, 15 minute, hour conversation can really change how someone's mood is and how they're feeling and how they're handling things by themselves. I know definitely with socials and how the world's progressing, you know, it's good to see people online, but you really need to be doing that next step of checking in. If you are keeping a diary for the seasons, which I highly recommend, go back, have a read, you know, what were you struggling with on different days, and just check back in with, your 2019 diary. Okay, what were we doing that helped, or what could we be doing different for this next time? So glad that the rain has come, that we are starting to get some really good even rainfall. I know for a lot of the southern states, for the southern listeners through New South Wales, Victoria, even through to the ACT and things like that, that our growing season has finished. So even though we're getting the moisture and we're topping up our moisture preserves into our soil, that, you know, the growing season has been missed in some areas. So my heart and my thoughts are still out to you guys about that, because, you know, many of you won't see growth and stop your drought feeding until we're out the other side of winter and well and truly into spring. So yeah, guys, thinking so much of you. I know rain is a very broad topic that we usually have in conversation, but I think we need to deep dive further into what that means and how we are checking in. So we're going to jump into an Ultimate Farm Wife update. So as you guys know, the interviews have stopped for the moment, and that is because I am working on my manuscript for my first book. Many of you know that I wrote my first manuscript over 12 months ago, and it was lost. I had a file corruption and OneDrive didn't back up, and all the things that you don't want to happen occurred, and I lost my first manuscript. So I have been working on that first book, and it is up to the stage of sending out quote and media release forms to those who are quoted in the book to get their permission to move forward. So they're coming back hot and fast, which is so exciting to see. So much excitement is building for this first manuscript. It is about moving to the farm. It is about the adjustment. It is about the things that are not necessarily always spoken about. So we are talking about the loss of your identity of who you were before, about the career that you may have been working towards in corporate or industry. It is about learning the new skills of what you need to be or who you need to be for your new life. Things like that aren't spoken about. It's about the isolation. So even if you are not geographically isolated, isolation from being in a work team with lots of people you're connecting with all the time, and now being your family unit on the farm, and how you're interacting with that, how language changes, how terminology changes, and all the unspoken skills that we need to learn to be able to do that. It's also about communication and choosing your partner and choosing the farm, and how on the surface that sounds so basic and rudimentary, but what does that really mean down deep? So it's taking a lot of advice from the Ultimate Farm Wife previous interviews. We've got over 100 interviews on this channel. This is episode 112. So what a wealth of knowledge. It is not the only book that I am currently writing. This one is part of 5 book series, which will take you from marrying your farmer, moving to the land, or choosing the land and moving to the farm, integrating. The second one will be like integrating into or back into a family farming business. The third will be based around the family unit. So now you're adding kids to the farm, or you've married someone who has kids. So then juggling that element and the balance of the farm and where everything fits in. The fourth book is on succession. So how do you navigate that, whether you have a seat at the table or not? And then the final book is Succession Has Happened. It has either had positive or not positive impacts depending on the journey and the goals that you have. And then what do? You're now in the driver's seat. You're now, technically in control. So what happens post succession? What we're finding in a lot of family farming businesses is they work towards the pinnacle of succession. And it's a little bit like childbirth for the women that are listening to the podcast, which is mostly a female-based audience, but we do have some male listeners. So hi guys, speaking out to those guys. So it's a little bit like childbirth, like so much effort and education is put into the birth itself, but then you get sent home and you have this beautiful baby, and then you need to relearn the next step. And I find that, succession is something like that as well. It's a goal, it's a hurdle, but then what do you do afterwards? So that final book will close that gap as well. So very passionate about these topics. It's exactly what I wanted for you guys in building the community, in doing the interviews, in working on those deeper dive conversations for the tips, tricks, hacks, and advice. And very excited to be bringing that to you guys through that format. So once I get those forms back, we will do the final edit. It will go out to a hub of a few select readers to make sure that the terminology and the communication of it is exactly the way that I have wanted it to be presented, very approachable, whether there's anything that might have been missed in the first manuscript drafting, and then it'll go to the editors and publishers. So hopefully that will be accessible by Christmas, if not the new year. So very, very excited for that. While we are talking Ultimate Farm Wife, I also wanted to give a shout out to Emma. I'm going to pop her details in the description below, because I have been working with Emma on learning how to integrate into the business to be able to take off the mental load of everything that I had catalogued in my brain. So she's worked with me to create a Notion account where I have been able to put all the details of everything that I'm working in, whether it's farm, whether it's family, whether it's the HarvestHer Power Conference, into one location, so that I've been able to take the stress off my brain. And taking the stress off my brain, being able to automate some tasks, has made an incredible difference to everything that I am doing. I do have some interviews with Emma coming out hopefully towards the end of July, early August, where she will be able to talk through a bit more of the details and the logistics in what we've been working on and how that can help you guys in your business by taking off some of that mental load, by adding some form of automation into the administration to make our lives easier. We know as rural women, we are wearing so many hats. We are doing so many roles, and a lot of our work is part of that invisible workload in the back end. So if we can take that pressure off, it makes such a difference. So shout out to Emma on that. You guys will have noticed during the month of June, for Absolutely Fabulous, Gillian and her husband took on some of the editing for Krista and I, so we could focus on some other projects here at home. And great job, Gillian and Mark. Thank you so much for taking on the Absolutely Fabulous editing for the season. It's been great. It's definitely been a lot of fun mixing up the workload. So for those who are hearing Absolutely Fabulous for the first time and me talking about Gillian and Mark, Gillian is my co-host for my second podcast, Absolutely Fabulous. That's right, I have two podcasts. So my first and original podcast is this one, The Ultimate Farm Wife. It used to be called The Rural Mum. And I met Gillian as one of my interviewees for The Ultimate Farm Wife way back in the early seasons. And we got on like a house on fire. We are two very passionate women about agriculture. We come from two very different farming production systems, and we were both so sick of hearing agriculture and farming in the media without a farmer's voice or representation. We both think that farming is underrepresented. The story that we tell about our business and our industry is underrepresented. And if we don't tell that story, someone else will. And it may not be true. It may not be factual. The knowledge gap between the farmers, us and our consumers is always growing, and we wanted a platform where we could give opinions, we could give a little bit of that farming history and understanding and practicality, definitely an opinion piece. But it was really important to us to close the urban and rural divide by giving a voice to agriculture beyond the news headlines. So that is where Absolutely Fabulous has evolved from. We are up to over 70 episodes now, so a wealth of knowledge. We have covered topics that our listeners, our ag fabs, send in, and we have been really enjoying discussing what you guys want to hear about agriculture, whether you are from a farming background or not. It's been so lovely to have you all there. So if you don't know about this second podcast, head across, give it a follow. Great big media backlog of episodes for you guys to catch up on, but we put out an episode every single week on Friday. So it has worked in really well with the Ultimate Farm Wife, because we've been able to do Ultimate Farm Wives on Thursday, Absolutely Fabulous on Friday. And I've got a new project which will be coming up, which I will tell you about in a little bit before I get sidetracked. But Absolutely Fabulous, we've been covering so many different topics. So episode 77, which came out last month, we were talking about some of the dramas that happened at country shows, who is the responsibility for coordinating a section, and who shouldn't be allowed to put products or services into the judging. So in particular, we were talking in 77 about the photographic section in the native floras, and there was a bit of controversy between the first two place getters, as they were not native flora, and was that the responsibility of the steward? Was it the responsibility of the judge who is judging that category? We talked about the ABC advisory panel, because Gillian is now a representative on that, and she will be sending through the newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter, it's always linked in the show notes or on our link trees. Highly recommend the newsletter. It will give a recap of this and everything else that we're talking about. But back to the ABC advisory, it is about, giving information about a service for rural and remote Australia who may not be able to access free to air. So, they're very reliant on iView and things like that. So Gillian is on the panel for that. So it's great to hear some of her feedback from that panel, how it's going to impact ABC moving forward. We also spoke about gumboot recommendations. One of our listeners, Natasha Yarrington, who is a dairy farmer up near Taree in New South Wales, she has been on this podcast before twice now, talking about their family farm and their journey and the tips, tricks, hacks and advice she has for that, particularly around calling out narcissism in family farming businesses, and talking about how Alzheimer's and dementia can impact on that, and the light on the end of the tunnel. And she's had an incredible story, 2 parts, well worth listening to. But she has answered an ag fab question for us, which they were asking about, not ag boots, they were asking about gumboot recommendations for someone who's new on the farm. They need to spend a lot of time in them. So Natasha answered that question. So quick reference, if you don't want to listen to the whole episode, they are BOGS, BOUGS. So look those up if you're also looking for ag boots. That's a little taste of, some of the topics we've talked about. We've talked about the live sheep export ban. We've talked about biosecurity, job prospects. If you yourself or someone else is wanting to get a job in ag, how do they stand out from the crowd? Do they or don't they take their own dogs? Where do you look for if you're wanting to work with horses versus motorbikes? All of those questions that keep coming into the ag space. Absolutely Fabulous is where you're going to find those answers, and it's also where you can submit your questions for us to answer, along with articles you want us to discuss, particularly in the renewable energy space, in cropping, in livestock. If we don't know the answer, we're happy to say we don't know the answer. We'll give you your opinion. We'll give you our opinion, and then we will bring in an expert should we need to. We have also been working closely in collaboration with Landcare in a series, which we are up to the 4th part of our collaboration series now, where we have talked about land rehydration, soil health, drones and how they can be implemented into the family farming business, different technologies, different funding that they're rolling out at the moment. So definitely head across to Absolutely Fabulous. That's where you're going to find those collaborations in those technical workshops as well. And we make them really approachable, as Landcare is so good at doing. And they're also that perfect fit for the urban-rural divide. Hope you guys are still with me for this solo episode. Always hard to record a solo episode because I never know if I'm just droning on, if I'm adding enough context, enough discussion points, if I'm covering things too in depth, because as I said, it's just me in the office. I much prefer a live recording, the keynotes, anything like that, getting to see you guys out in the wild. But I am going to head into the HarvestHer Power Conference. So for those who've been here for quite some time, HarvestHer Power Conference is the non-for-profit that I felt was so needed that I did the first conference on my own. I self-funded it. I organised all the speakers and workshops to be there. So important to be focusing on the people behind family farming businesses rather than just the business. There is so much that is in the education space for the family farming business, thanks to a lot of the grant funding that has come through, a lot of programs working on this, and I greatly appreciate those. I didn't want to take anything away from it. But the one thing that I did see was the empowerment and skill gap that was growing for women on the land in family farming businesses, particularly with the gap of maybe not having a voice at the table, or when it came to, decision making for the farm or finances or anything like that. But also in the information gap, which we have found throughout the Ultimate Farm Wife and the Rural Mum journey. When our partners have grown up on the farm, they have learnt a lot through osmosis. They've had a lot of time to learn skills and what paddocks are like in what season, and the livestock and the cropping and how that all fits together. And we were missing that piece of how do we learn that without just watching for years, taking notes for years, struggling to work things out on our own. And the Ultimate Farm Wife was definitely a part of that piece. And after COVID and lockdowns and everything else, I found that we were all craving a lot more interaction and a lot more involvement and a lot more deep diving. So HarvestHer Power was born. It is the next step in the Ultimate Farm Wife in bringing people together to do small events, webinars, and the annual conference. So as I said, the first one was nearly 3 years ago in Dubbo, New South Wales. This year was here as well. And next year, I am so excited to announce that it will be in Adelaide, South Australia. My board members, now that I've been able to make the non-for-profit, have my directors, Alistair and Gillian, are absolutely two powerhouse people. And I am so glad to have met them and been able to work with them. They are taking the lead on the conference this year, hosting it in their state of South Australia, having it in Adelaide. So I ventured over to Adelaide to do a live recording with Absolutely Fabulous and catch up with Gillian. But while we were there, I caught up with Alistair and I caught up with Gillian, and we went venue hunting. So we now have our top list of venues for the HarvestHer Power Conference. Put this date in your diary. It is the first weekend in March 2027. We are going to be there and starting festivities from the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. We have a slightly different format to what we've done here in New South Wales for the last 2 years. We are working on empowerment. We are working on skills, but we are also going to do retreat style activities as well, so that when you are off farm, you're finding that balance of looking after you and working on you, and for us to work with you. So it's really working on that all-rounder. Something that's really passionate for me for the conference is that there's always this barrier about childcare. We talk about childcare gaps all the time out in the bush, whether you're on the wait lists or it's too far or you have to send your kids away. So the one thing I wanted to bring into the HarvestHer Power Conference, which I've been able to successfully do in its first 2 years, and we will be bringing it back for the 3rd year over in Adelaide in March, and that is childcare. We are going to have a dedicated space for those who need to bring their kids to the conference. I have been that mum at the conference who has had to bring my kids, and I just really felt passionate about making a space and taking that down as a boundary, as a hurdle. If you need to bring your kids to the conference, bring your kids to the conference. So very excited for all of that. Expressions of interest will come out soon, whether you want to present, whether you want to sponsor, whether you want to run a workshop, whether you know someone who needs to be receiving information about the conference. Make sure you're getting in contact, dropping that in our inbox so that we can give an all-round conference of what you guys want to see and hear. The most important thing to take away is that it is not a farm business conference. It is for the women behind the family farming business. You can bring your partners. We did have some husbands at the event this year, but if you just want to bring yourself and your kids or just yourself, then you are more than welcome to do that as well. So that is what is happening in the HarvestHer Power space at the moment. So here on farm, we have Polestar Shorthorns. So I work alongside my husband and his family business. And part of what we do here on farm is we have stud and commercial shorthorns, trade steers, cropping, irrigation, and more. But the exciting announcement that I wanted to add in here is we have an update for our on-property bull sale. Usually we would have our on-property bull sale in July, probably when this episode goes live. That is when we used to have our bull sale. But because of the season that we've had and from our bull buyers' feedback, we've actually moved our sale. So our sale will be on Wednesday, the 26th of August, 2026, here on property still at our bull complex. So lots more information coming on that soon. Our lots are going to be up on socials. I'll be sharing them on the Ultimate Farm Wife and Absolutely Fabulous, so we can have a nice little well-rounded part of that. But you guys know that I've been podcasting for over 3 years now, and it has taken me this long to convince my husband that we could do a podcast on the farm. We could do a podcast on the shorthorns. We could do a podcast on what makes shorthorns so great, why we choose them, why our clients choose to crossbreed with them for that hybrid vigor. So Ned and I are going to be sitting down in the studio and we are going to be recording a podcast. So I will give the details out in the next episode that I will be recording solo for the Ultimate Farm Wife. So make sure you're staying tuned for that so you can find out the podcast details for Ned's and my Shorthorn podcast coming up. Until then, guys, I know I've given so much information. I look forward to seeing you in the newsletter or on the socials or over on Absolutely Fabulous. So I hope that the season is being kind to you. I hope you are checking in with your friends, your family, making those text messages, sending those text messages, making those calls, and I will talk to you all in another episode of The Ultimate Farm Life very soon. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. A huge thank you goes out to our show editor, Krista Pathrath, CEO of the Rural Podcasting Network, helping rural entrepreneurs share their voice online. You can learn more about Krista and the Rural Podcasting Co. at their website in the show notes below. And to our creative powerhouse, Dakota Gorey, CEO, or as she likes to call it, the Creative Experience Officer of CGC Design. With over 5 years of experience in marketing, social media management, and website design, Dakota is passionate about helping businesses and brands of all sizes find their voice and stand out online. Want to know more about her work or about Krista and how you can get involved? Make sure you're using the links in the show notes below. I'm Katja Williams, and this has been the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep showing up for your farm, your family, and yourself. I'll see you in another episode. Before you go, if you've been loving these farm life chats, I'd love for you to join me over on my other podcast too. It's called Absolutely Fabulous, where we dive into agriculture beyond the headlines and bridging the urban-rural divide. We'll deep dive into big conversations in ag, from the challenges to the highlights and what's shaping our future. It's a space where honest stories, laughter, and a good dose of farm life real talk goes on. So make sure to head to the link in the show notes, subscribe to the Absolutely Fabulous, and I'll play the intro for you now.
Hi, welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Absolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode.